Zealand had not lost a game since 2001, and that was to England in 2001. So this is 8 years without, and they didn't play the same amount of games that we did, but they hadn't lost a game since 2001. They seemed pretty invincible. They won the last how many World Cups. They were incredible. For us, the most important thing was the game that we played them the week before the game at Twickenham. We played a game at Esher, and we lost, but we came off that pitch knowing that we could beat them because we hadn't played our best game in that game, and we suddenly understood that they weren't invincible, that this aura everyone thought they had, it, it could be blown apart. Losing to them, but understanding that we could give more was probably more important than anything else. So we went into that game in 2009 knowing with unshakable belief that we could beat them. And actually so we played, so it was at Twickenham, we played after the men, and there was a delay actually. So we used to go and the men would finish, we'd go and do our warm up on the pitch whilst many of the crowd were leaving the stadium because they had no idea that a women's game was on, but that's another conversation. So we'd go and do a warm up on the pitch, and then kick off, I don't know, an hour after the men's game, something like that. But in this particular game, the referee got injured, or the men's game got injured, or something like that. And so the men's game went on for much longer. And our game was on TV, Sky was showing it, so we had to stick to the schedule. And our warm up time was getting reduced, more and more reduced, which for me is good because I tended to like to conserve energy in the warm ups. But anyway, so we had this my favourite warm up ever. We were kind of in the change room. We had a couple of bikes. We had a couple of rowers. We were all really close together in the changing room. And this belief that we were going to win felt like it was in the air, and we didn't need to say it. It was just this look at each other. We knew we were going to go and do it. And then we went out onto the pitch for probably 10 minutes of this most intense warm up ever, but absolutely perfect, absolutely spot on. And then we went out and everything just went well. We were just on the same page. Everything kind of clicked. I was just having the time of my life in playing terms. Running off the base of the scrum was my absolute favourite thing to do, other than getting in the middle of them all. And it was just working for us, and you got that try, and it was what a magnet for us, really, because, it set us up nicely for 2010. Didn't win that game, but it kind of spearheaded us onwards. And it was like a massive boost in terms of profile for the game as well. The men had just lost. We came out, we won. We beat New Zealand, the world champions. And, in the context of growing the game, it was quite a key moment, actually. And then we went and all had a good night in the cabbage patch afterwards. That's another podcast as well.
Sounds a good one. What can you say what it was that flicked the switch? Say we're going to beat them and gave you that absolute confidence. Can you point your finger at anything?
I think there were little things that we did on the pitch that we didn't quite get, that we knew we could. This is a long time ago. It was like 2009, but I just remember thinking that, we could have just done that slightly differently, or we could have done that better. And there were a few little individual things. I think we went into the Esher game, we were a bit nervous, a couple of missed tackles here or there. I think we just held back a little bit because we were like, oh no, we're playing against New Zealand. We can't, we're not supposed to beat them. That doesn't happen. So I think really we were not as up for it as we should have been. And I think we went into the game at Twickenham with the clarity of mind that we didn't have at Esher, because we had that confidence that we got from losing, but knowing we could play better. So I think actually in that Esher game, it was sort of individual sitting back a little bit, a bit like Ireland men against France in their first half, sitting back a little bit. They'd been a bit blown away and they didn't come back, and I think we're a bit like that. We didn't start strongly enough. We kind of gave them more space than we should have done. And, it just gave us huge confidence, and it gave us this certainty that we could go and beat them. They weren't all that, we'd played 60, 70% of our best in the game at Esher, and we knew we had more to give. And so I think it was definitely a kind of a mental approach into Esher, giving them, it sounds a bit boring, a bit too cliched. We gave them too much respect. We gave them a head start before the whistle started, because like, well, you're better than us. You're New Zealand. I know we didn't make them earn it on the pitch really.